to this joint episode of Windowcast and GlassCast. We're broadcasting live from the bustling trade show floor at GlassBuild America in Orlando, Florida, where the fenestration and glass industry's best and brightest have gathered to showcase cutting-edge products and solutions. This episode is brought to you by our series sponsors, Dow, innovating for a sustainable future in building materials, and Lansing Building Products, your partner in quality building supplies. Thank you for your partnership. I'm Laurie Cowan, editor of Window and Door. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Kevin Kennedy, founder and CEO, and Joe Bazzano, COO of Beacon Exit Planning. Both Kevin and Joe are recognized #1 best-selling authors, industry voices, and thought leaders in exit planning and succession in the contracting industry. They co-authored the 2018 Amazon #1 bestseller, The Contractor's 60-Minute Exit Plan, and, along with the National Glass Association, the American Business Awards 2019 Gold Stevie winner Best Business Book of the Year with an owner's guide to exit and succession planning. Kevin and Joe, thank you so much for being here today.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. It's a pleasure to be here. We love your association. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. We're so happy to get to talk to you year after year about this very important and very relevant topic of exit planning and succession. Now, this is a topic that we could talk about for hours and hours, but this afternoon, one of the things that we're going to focus about is the valuation of your business and how to value it.
Yeah, and that's where some of the skill, if you will. A lot of valuation is subjective. As a valuator, I use a lot of subjectivity when I analyze a company, and the same holds true for a buyer. When they buy a company, there's going to be some subjective analysis on their part, understanding what risks they're willing to accept within the business. And so that's subjectivity is a little bit more of an art than a science sometimes.
Certainly.
I can also intercede that Joe talked about the quality of the management team. Our company is Beacon Exit Planning and Succession. Succession is about the management team. Succession is about the owner being able to replace themselves in order for the company, so he can sell the company. A company is not saleable unless you have a strong management team and the owner can be replaced. So it's a very, very important part of the just evaluation. When companies look to buy or you look to value a company, the strength of that management team is very, very important. In an internal sale to replace yourself or an external sale, the buyers are not buying the owner, they're buying the strength of your management team.
And that leads back to the profitability of the company. Once the owner is no longer part of the business, it's important that the management team is in place. It's a seasoned management team. So there's this continuity there for a buyer or for anybody that's going to take over the business. There has to be that ability to continue to generate cash flow and profits and into perpetuity. Right? So that's why a good sound management team is so critical in just basically any aspect of valuation or selling a business for that matter.
For a company that might be looking to sell their business, how do you recommend that they go about positioning themselves to be the most value, including building a really strong management team? And let's talk about somebody who might be 5 years out from looking to move on versus somebody who might be 15 or 20 years out. So kind of the short game versus the long game.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it really all starts from profitability, making sure that they're profitable. Again, one of the concepts that I always use and when I talk about valuation is forward-looking, right? So it's all the buyer. When somebody buys your company, they're not buying you, they're not buying your equipment, they're buying the future cash flow of that company. So positioning your company in a way that makes that cash flow sustainable and transferable to a buyer is critical. And what does that mean, right? That means being in an industry that's growing, having good company with good systems, operationally the sound, get profitable, but then also understanding what the market wants, and so that a buyer is going to be looking for certain types of characteristics in your company, and there's a whole slew of potential characteristics that a company will buy. So it's important really for a business owner to start working on the company understanding what these characteristics are, again, tangible and intangible characteristics, and then just start implementing slowly but surely. And I always say that if you have a good saleable business, you probably never want to leave the business, because the company just operates on its own, and it generates income and profitability on its own. And you as the owner, it becomes almost second nature. So it becomes much easier to operate that business when it's a truly saleable business.
Laura, you mentioned what advice would you give owners that are ready to sell 5, 10, 20, 15 years out? I would recommend that, number one, they create, particularly the ones that are further out, early on, create systems for your company. And one thing that we endorse with Beacon is a process called EOS, is Entrepreneurial Operating Systems. Anyone can Google it, and you'll find lots of books on it. We like the one called Get a Grip, and what is EOS? And the third book to read is Traction. The first two are fables. Traction is really more fundamentally about the EOS. We like it because it helps you form teams in your company based on disciplines and work as a team, hold each other accountable, and the owner is very involved in it too, but it also leaves a pathway for the owner to get out later on so he can exit the business, and those managers can take over, where they're selling to the managers or selling outside externally to a consolidator or private equity. It's a great tool. We talked today about it. If you're 5 years out, it's not too late to do it, but it takes about 3 years for that program to really become functional and credible to the company, and then it just takes off on its own.
And that's terrific.
To that point, the EOS system just takes a lot of the subjectivity out of management. Creates profit, or they call them rocks, or goals, short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals. So everybody knows kind of the direction that we need to head as an employee, and essentially the process holds everybody accountable for their responsibility. Right, so there's regular meetings, quick meetings. Everybody's accountable to each other, and through that process, you get a more sound, a more efficient running business. And in turn, as Kevin said, when the business owner leaves, it helps with the continuity of operations, and not only operations, but also the administrative aspect to it. There can be EOS implemented in operations, administrative, and a bunch of different areas of the business.
One of the things I really like about the EOS, like what you're talking about, is it sounds like it's going to be like what you should do no matter what your succession plan is, no matter which direction that you think it's going to go. Because it's going to set up the business for no matter which way no matter what its next iteration of ownership is.
If you have a robust EOS team, you're going to have better communications, you have better accountability. That translates right to reducing of errors and making yourself more profitable and making yourself more valuable.
Right, and what it also does is it creates a standardization. Everybody's speaking the same vocabulary, the same process and procedures, and again, the vocabulary. Everybody's understands what's expected of them, and then when a buyer buys a company, clearly they know the EOS model as well, because it's pretty well renowned, and so they understand the process of management, and it becomes easy for them to integrate into their new ownership.
Good point.
What do you think business buyers look for the most when they are looking to acquire a business?
I'm not sure if I got the question.
What do business buyers look for or value the most when they are looking to acquire a business?
Yeah. So really, again, buyers are looking for the future. And so what they're really looking for is the ability to scale the business, future growth. They're not going to buy a business just to remain stagnant at the current levels. So they want to know that there's opportunities to invest in the company and create economies of scale and growth, so that it just becomes a better return on their investment. Particularly if you're a private equity buyer, what they're looking for is to buy the company, grow it, usually buying several like-minded companies, and then ultimately flip it for a larger multiple and create a significant profit on the sale. So scalability is number one. Obviously, management team, products, the quality of earnings, right? The product mix of what you're selling is important to them, because certain types of revenue are more dependable than others, meaning there's more recurrence, there's more predictability of revenue versus some other types of industries. So all these types of things are part of the analysis that a buyer will go through.
And how do you recommend that sellers position their companies? I mean, we've talked about what they can do to strengthen their companies for selling, but some of that must also be positioning their companies and marketing their companies to be appealing and catch the eye of potential buyers.
This is something Joe specializes in, and when we do a beacon exit planning, there are two plans. One's an exit plan, one's a succession plan. The exit plan is the owner's plan. You get the owner and get the company sale ready. That could be even internally or externally. Okay, they got to be able to replace themselves and create that robust team. And the company plan is the exit plan. Excuse me, the company plan is the succession plan. And that's where you get the company ready so it can be very, very attractive to an outside buyer. But the succession part is making sure that the owner can lead. The buyers are not buying the owner, they're buying the management team, because they're the ones that are going to go, owner is going to be leaving the company. And he has a huge responsibility to make sure that management team can take over either day one when he leaves or like within 2 years.
And I would say also, you position your company differently depending on who the buyer is. If you're selling it to your managers, clearly they know more about the business than an outside buyer would know. So there's not going to be the amount of description, if you will, of the company. If you're selling to an outside party, you essentially want to highlight as many of the positives of your company as you possibly can. You want to be able to show them that there's opportunity for growth, right? Because again, that's really what the buyer is looking for. And then secondly, or thirdly, is getting them to understand that, or mitigate the risk that cash flow is going to be sustainable and transferable to them. Right? So these are all types of, during the due diligence process, and maybe a little bit before, is having these conversations with, combined with the analysis of the buyer, to give them a comfort level that if they buy this company, the risk of this company imploding on them is pretty remote, right? There's process procedures, there's people in place that help with the continuity of this business and will provide the ability to scale it much to their needs.
Well, this is such an important and timely conversation, especially here at GlassBuild, where we have so many glass and fenestration companies that are on the smaller side. They might be family-owned businesses, and quite a few people in the industry might be thinking about retiring soon and want to ensure that their company passes down into the correct hands and lives on and continues to grow.
Yeah. Again, it's just because a business owner has a business, it's profitable, doesn't necessarily mean that it's saleable to an outside party, right? It could be valuable to its employees, and so that makes a better alternative for exiting. So there's still value, but really the value is perceived in the buyer. Right? What's somebody willing to pay for your company? And so an outside buyer versus an inside buyer may have a different perspective and be willing to pay a different price for your company. Right? And so to your point, a lot of family businesses, there's the big baby boomer transition that's going on right now, right? There's millions and millions of companies that are trying to transition, and everybody's looking for a way out, if you will. It's unfortunate, though, sometimes we have these conversations with business owners who haven't done the proper planning. They haven't put the succession plan in place, And so really they are the business. It's a lifestyle business, and there's really no opportunity for them to sell externally because there's too much risk for the buyer, and they've really not fostered or created a buyer internally in the form of a management team. So it's an unfortunate conversation that we have all too often, and we're hoping events like this and some of the presentations that we've made this week will get business owners to understand how difficult it is to transition a business and maybe take the appropriate steps to create a business that is transferable and saleable to somebody that will really value it.
Well, is there anything else about the topic that you two think would be valuable to discuss here today?
Taxes.
We talk about we'll host 2-day workshops on this subject. We're so passionate about it. We've written a book and we've co-authored a book with National Glass Association. So we could talk about this for days. But Kevin's right. You can spend, if you don't do the proper tax planning, you could spend 30, 40 years building a business, and then when you sell it, you end up giving the government 60 to 70% of it in the form of taxation. So it's critical that not only are you setting up your business for sale, but also setting it up in a way that provides for some tax efficiency. And so we always, in the work that we do with our clients, that's a huge component of what we do. We want to analyze all the different options that are available to business owner and really get a good understanding of what the tax ramifications, and find out if there's ways that we can restructure the transaction or the business in a way that can save them some taxes, which ultimately just means it's going to be more money in the business owner's pocket, less stress on the business.
Sure, absolutely.
That's pretty much it. I think
Great. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to talk to us here today.
Well, we thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. It's been wonderful.
We have a great relationship with National Glass Association, and we really have a lot of friends here and a lot of partners trying to help your owners.
Well, we look forward to continuing that relationship and bringing our knowledge to all of our members in the industry.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you, National Glass.
Great, thank you. And that wraps up this episode of GlassCast and WindowCast, live from GlassBuild America in Orlando. Kevin and Joe, thank you again for taking time out of the show to be here with us and share your insights. And once again, a thank you to our series sponsors, Dow and Lansing Building Products, for sponsoring the Live at GlassBuild podcast stage. Don't forget to subscribe to NGA's YouTube channel and follow WindowCast and GlassCast on your favorite podcast platforms for more industry insights and conversations. I'm Laurie Cowan, editor of Window and Door. Until next time.